It appears to be a really big, fun event. In fact, we even capture children. It's daycare.
It's fantastic.
And it's locked from the outside, so you're good for as long as you need.
So, as anybody back there starts to hear any pounding, anything of that nature,
we think the air will go for a while.
Please let my son out.
So, welcome.
Or just let me know and I'll determine whether or not he's ready. So, thank you very much, Glenn, very much. And thanks once again to the Digital Influence Group for continually sponsoring and helping support the social media breakfast. Ginger, from back to time when she was at Race Point, and the Digital Influence Group has just been absolutely astounding and kind of nurturing and supporting these events. So thanks once again. Big thing here is, I always used to do this kind of lineup of Boston. We've only had 2 events in Boston at Social Media Breakfast. One was over in Community Space when they actually hosted, moved down to downtown Boston. Everyone else has been in Waltham, Watertown, started over in a deli shop in Cambridge, but this was nice. And here we have, of course, the infamous 53 State Street, now officially on the map forever, as we're along with Digital Influence Group. I'm really excited about this particular session because I need to know a lot more about what's happening in healthcare and social media. So usually my preamble, where I'm stating the state of the union, what's going on with it, I just want to really turn it over to these fantastic group of people. We're excited to have Alicia Staley, the community manager from the HIT community. Alicia Benjamin, who's a social media manager from MeYou Health. Kevin, Alicia Green, sorry, Senior VP of Strategy here at Digital Influence Group. And Lora, I'm always going to be butchering your last name for the rest of my beautiful life. Scratch. Principal over at Scratch Marketing.
Otherwise Kratchounova, but
Kratchounova, from Scratch Marketing and Media. Also, we're waiting for maybe Carissa O'Brien who's the community manager for Aetna, who'll be hopefully joining us, or more importantly, she's safe from flying in last night. So it's interesting. I think on your chairs, if you want to, feel free to tweet out. The tag for today is SMB28, and these are the Twitter tags for all the great people who are speaking here today. As we're talking about social media and healthcare, in my mind, I'm always thinking about it from a marketing standpoint and what's happening with regulators and marketers. What can you say? What can you not say? But it's really sometimes about how the physicians are using social media and doctors and medical care facilities to reach out to them. It's about them, the doctors and the medical people, also using social media to become wiser, smarter, to get more up-to-date information and get maybe even a holistic view of the community of the individuals. And to dance and to have fun. And it's also for individuals. I am loving the happy dance. It is also for people. Was it exactly? And it's also for people who are going online and trying to find information and engage with communities and looking for support. And once again, not just for medical, but also for healthcare. And I think one of the big things going to be going on for the future, what's happening with healthcare, is the ubiquity of information, the access to information, and having this in your front pocket, bedside, everywhere you go, and how you're accessing your community and your information, and what's that going to be changing for the healthcare industry moving forward. Just a quick interesting research here. I just found that these are the people who don't use social media for health. And here, this is a year old, and I'm trying to find the new stats, but it's definitely going to be growing. But where they are, they're on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And it's really interesting to see where they really are on Facebook, with that kind of open platform for sharing information. But with that said, I'd love just to kind of kick it off with Kevin from the Digital Influence Group to talk a little bit about what they're seeing within social and healthcare. Kevin?
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
So I wanted to take a different look. A lot of the questions out there about how do you get started in social media as a healthcare brand. We've got a lot of experience in working with Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare over the last 5 years. We've done some amazing stuff with them, but I wanted to look a little bit more about where things are going and some of the things that really we need to pay attention to, and try to flip it on its head a little bit and look at some things that may not be top of mind right now, but most certainly will be top of mind over the next 5 years. So obviously there are major changes happening in the healthcare space. Without question, we are moving to a consumer market, and that's going to give all of us more choice when it comes to healthcare. Sharing has no longer been a bad thing. So for a long time, people were somewhat ashamed or embarrassed about sharing conditions or issues or any health items that they have online. That's a thing of the past. Thankfully, due to social media, that people are feeling more confident and they're looking for more ways to engage with people around their condition and rally support. The collaboration and the answers to what we're looking for are in our hands. Bob made a great point to point out the mobile experience and what we're seeing every day in a mobile environment, and how dramatically that's going to change the information we have at our fingertips, but also really how we're going to go about improving our lives before we run into problems. So how do we be more proactive in our health? And through all this, we're creating massive amounts of data. And that'll really be kind of the crux of what I want to talk about, is that data and how important that data is. And then what does that data mean for marketers? So in some recent research, the 2012 J.D. Power study, 40% of health plan members who are currently sponsored, have health care through their employer, said if there was an open market and they were given the opportunity to look at a different insurance provider, that they would indeed shop. This creates a real change in dynamic in the way that health insurance companies are going to have to be marketing to consumers, how they're going to have to position their brand, how they're going to have to communicate. In the broader brand message, a lot of the traditional tactics that marketers have been using are no longer going to work once the power rests in the individual's hand. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize it was a build, I'm sorry. So the customer focus, 1 in 5 people use social media as a source of healthcare info. 80% of people go to search first, and everybody knows at this point in time, WebMD comes up first, and we've all become hypochondriacs because of what we find on WebMD. I go in to look for pain in my elbow, and it turns out that I have some debilitating disease, and I have 3 months to live. That's a problem. That's a massive, massive problem. Of those, 94% cited Facebook as their preferred source. So now I'm going to Facebook and I'm asking my peers for information about what ailments I have, and if they have any experience with that ailments. What that tells us, though, is that, again, just like in social media, people are more reliant on their peers. They're going to take guidance and recommendation from their peers on how they should move forward with dealing with specific health issues. And then 79% of Americans that were surveyed said social media influences their healthcare decisions. Yeah, we are looking at each other right now for a way to find the solutions we need to live a healthier lifestyle. And when I say, healthcare decisions, it's not just what treatment should I do, it's what medication are you taking, what are the repercussions, what are the side effects, how long did it take to find a cure. So we're really heavily dependent on individuals, and while we may trust our immediate peer network, there's certainly a larger community out there that we are trying to leverage in hopes of capturing more information. But again, we're all individuals, and what works for you may not work for me. The side effect you see may not be the same side effect I see. So sharing, everybody's out there, they're blogging, they're talking about these conditions. I actually have a personal friend who was diagnosed 6 months ago with breast cancer and had to have a double mastectomy. She wrote a blog throughout the entire process. After every chemotherapy session, she wrote about what that meant. She wrote about what it felt like to lose her hair. She wrote about what her friends did with her and how the caregiver community around her really did everything they could to kind of build her up and make sure that she knew she wasn't alone through the fight. So she blogged about, when she went to get her wig tried on. It was really inspiring stuff. And this is a woman who had a 2-year-old daughter. So she had to face the fact that if I don't win, what's going to happen? So there's these very emotional stories. And 10 years ago, this didn't happen. This stuff was behind closed doors. And now people are very open about these types of issues. And it's not that they're looking for support and sympathy. It's that they want to educate, and they want to make sure that they're bringing people together and sharing their story, and hopefully having an impact on the people that are struggling with the same issues. If you do just a basic search for health on YouTube, 1.5 million videos. Some of them valuable, some of them probably not. But a lot of these individual stories, this is just a quick sampling of some people who are just set up a camera and they're using video as a way to tell the story of what they're dealing with. All of this information, and this is all data. So what my friend was putting in her blog about the treatments that she was facing and how she felt after chemotherapy, what these people are talking about when they're dealing with their specific treatment process. There's a great story from Genzyme with a gentleman, actually he was a kid at the time, who was diagnosed with Pompe disease. And he wrote a blog. It's a very rare disease. It only affects something about 1,000 people a year. He wrote a blog about it, and he talked about the treatment. was very cutting edge at the time. He's still blogging about it today, and at the time when he was diagnosed, the expectation was that he would only live a couple of years. I think he started that blog 15 years ago. And now he's got a phenomenal relationship with Genzyme. If you walk in there and talk to anybody on the Pompeii team, they'll tell you, yeah, we know Juan really well. We've had him up here, we talk to him all the time, we've got a great relationship. So what are we doing it for? Obviously motivation. It helps us. It's cathartic for us to share that information. We're looking for research. We want to share the information that we've learned. So we all spend tons of time. If you're diagnosed with any issue, you're spending tons of time trying to figure out what's the cause, what are the symptoms, what are the at-home remedies, all the stuff that WebMD tells you that makes you feel like you've got 3 days to live. They're looking for support. Tons of communities out there, specifically diabetes has amazing communities. A lot of brands, a lot of pharmaceutical companies are creating communities specifically to bring these people together. Personal experiences. How do we make sure that people learn from what I've gone through? It may not be the same for you, but I want you to know what I'm going through. And we do that through sharing photos and sharing videos like we talked about. And obviously so many other ways. The most important thing, and I was interviewed about a year ago by Pharma Voice, and the question was, what can some of these pharmaceutical companies do to improve the relationship with these customers, with these patients? They obviously care, they want to see these people improve. And they've created tons of these communities where patients are coming together, but they're nowhere to be found. And that creates a big problem. The opportunity for a healthcare marketer, whether you're in a pharmaceutical company, whether you're a healthcare provider, whether you're a health insurance company, is to be involved in that conversation and at the very least empathize with what these people are going through. You have tons of information at your hands. You have tons of data that you can share with an individual to help them feel a little bit better. And even if it's only for one day, that's the type of role that you can play as a marketer in the healthcare space. So the rise of mobile. So right now there's probably about 13,000 plus healthcare applications for mobile devices. I couldn't tell you which one is worth using. I certainly haven't used all 13,000. My phone would die and AT&T would choke and spit me out. But there is a variety of different healthcare applications out there, from specific things like eye triage, where I can go in and I can figure out what I've been diagnosed with, learn a little bit more about it. But that's scary information. I don't want to read everything there is about it because it's just natural human behavior to take it to that next level and assume that I'm going to have the same condition or that these things might happen to me. But then you have the more proactive approach, the wellness approach, and this is something that Harvard Pilgrim focuses on very much. It's how do we get to people before it becomes an issue? How do we treat them and help them live a better lifestyle? So you've got MyFitnessPal and Sleep Cycle and the amazing stuff that Nike is doing to get people moving and exercising. All these mobile applications have a tremendous impact on what we do from a day-to-day basis. And having that at the palm of your hand, again, just really improves your relationship with a brand. The other side effect of this is tons of data. People are entering how many calories they've eaten. If you look at communities like Patients Like Me and a lot of the communities right now that allow you to track when your medications are due, all of that is data that you're able to capture. When you create a native or a web-based mobile app, you're getting more data about an individual. So we create massive data. And when it comes to data right now, there's nothing better to talk about than IBM Watson. And what IBM has done... What?
We have an educated audience here.
What IBM has done with Watson, obviously, is focused specifically on healthcare and finance. And how do we bring speed to market in terms of helping people identify solutions, helping doctors consume more data than they're ever going to be able to do at a time. So, where we've got traditional white papers or research reports, that's a challenge to go through that. Doctors don't have time to be consuming all of this information, especially on a global level. So, what does Watson bring us, and what does this data bring us? Faster diagnosis, absolutely. Better treatment opportunities. Collaborative research. So the one thing I really want to point out about Watson is the data that we're creating in blogs, the data that we're creating on Facebook, the data that we're sharing on mobile applications, Watson has access to all of that data. So if I'm prescribed a specific medication for a certain ailment that I have, and I decide I want to go blog about that ailment, Watson has the ability to go through, cull all of that information that I've shared publicly, and put that into a database so the next time that a doctor is meeting with a patient and the patient says, I've got this elbow pain, it's been there for 6 months, I don't know what's wrong with it. Watson is able to bring back not only medical research and all of that data, but it's also going to pull the information and the data that we've collectively shared as a community. This is only really the beginning of where we're going. So there's instant updates in education. Again, I mentioned for the physician, for them to be able to quickly find potential solutions that they may not have heard of. Bob and I had a great conversation about, we have, right now there's a triple E is a big issue right now in southeastern Mass, and I believe actually just in Boston as of yesterday. But it hasn't spread across the country. But as people in other areas of the world start to uncover this stuff, Watson has the ability to take those symptoms and provide this as a really reliable potential solution to what the issue may be. Better records. Watson is driving, making sure that we are capturing all that information about an individual and that we are passing that information along and collaborating from your primary care physician directly to your specialist. So facilitating that data, Watson is one of the ways to help push that information is making its way around to the people who need it. And then better relationships. Most of us pick our primary care physician because of the amount of time that they spend with us. I personally pick mine even though he won't respond to email. There's no website where I can schedule an appointment with him, but I value the personal relationship I have. And a lot of what you hear, as you talk about the future of healthcare is being able to Skype with your physician. That's great. One of my major concerns about that is if we remove that personal connection from the healthcare experience, we're opening ourselves up to a tremendous amount of risk. So data helps us identify a solution, but the physician is crucial. And if we can eliminate the amount of time that the physician needs to find the information, to find the right cure, to speed recovery time, then we're going to be able to build stronger relationships with our healthcare providers and hopefully our health insurance companies. So what does this mean for healthcare? Data will drive content strategy engagement. For Harvard Pilgrim, we've been working with them for the last 5 years. We look at all data that comes in. Anything we push out on Facebook, anything we put on a community, any application we launch, we look at the data and we understand what are people interacting with, what are they talking about, what content matters the most to them, and where are they having an impact. And then we adjust. It's all about having the right choreography to understand here's the information we're getting, instead of going with the same old push message and focusing highly on the brand. Let's try to figure out and understand our consumer and what their specific needs are. This is going to become a consumer market. I can't say it enough. At that point in time, when it does, we need to make sure that we have enough data about certain people, their lifestyles, and be able to segment that audience so that we're giving them content and solutions that matter to them. Instead of relying them to do the work, go to WebMD, get terrified about what they may have, when in fact we have the ability and the data right now to make people feel a lot more comfortable about where they are in their health. Consumers are already telling us what they need and want, and we can learn from them. So all of those blogs, all of those videos, they're telling us their personal experience. They're telling us that they want more time. They're telling us that they want to trust you. The healthcare industry actually is, we looked at recently at a trust index. When it comes to trust, healthcare is behind retail, airlines, banks, financial institutions. It's shocking. Especially when you think about what's happening in the financial world today. The fact that people trust healthcare less than they trust big banks. I mean, big banks just lost, what, $40 billion in a month? So there's a trust deficit there, and we need to rebuild that. Personalization and customization require us to understand the individual needs of the consumer. I've talked about this a lot. This social technology allows us to capture that information. It allows us to create a personal relationship online via these social media tools with these individuals and to customize plans and treatment plans with those individuals. We can reduce the amount of time that people need to actually see a specialist or need to see their primary care physician because we've got an exchange of data that's going back and forth. Right now, we're not there yet. All of those mobile apps are great, but our physicians don't have time to use them. So how do we figure out a way to make sure that we are offering a personalized experience? And some of the things you'll see hopefully in the future is using the data that's out there to better understand the individual, to make sure that we are offering specific information that matters most to them. So the Amazon model is a great way to look at this. Amazon, if you shop on Amazon, you buy something, we learn a lot about you as a customer. We're going to offer you things that we think matter to you based on your interests. That same model can apply in a healthcare space. I know a lot about you as your primary care physician. I know what you're struggling with. I know what you've read, I know what you're interested in. Here are some other things that I've packaged up for you over a period of time that are going to help you feel a little bit better and remove some of the concern and the fear that you may have. So kind of wrap it all up, data really is the most important part. I think what we're seeing it everywhere, the term big data, especially if you do a search on social media, big data is going to come up everywhere. But big data as it applies to healthcare is right now way behind the pack. And social media is a driver of getting to that data that we need to better improve the relationship and the care that we have with all of the people that we need to serve. And any questions? Yes.
So, on the discussion of Watson can do this, Watson can do that, we've heard a whole lot about the stuff that Watson can do.
Yep.
Just want to make a point that in terms of big data, Twitter feeds are being used these days to
Yep.
deal with tracking outbreaks.
Yes.
So tracking disease outbreaks. There's lots of other uses of big data that's going on that's not the natural language processing.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the stuff that Watson's been doing, there have been products out there in the marketplace that have been doing some of the kinds of natural language processing.
Right.
VA's been doing some of that natural language processing of their collection of medical records for years. In terms of Watson reading your blog today and giving you a diagnosis, no, it's not doing that today, but it could.
No, it's not. What it is doing is it is capturing that data.
No, what they're doing is they've got it set up so that they can take that sort of data from blog feeds, from whatever sources, but it's based on how it's configured where it's used.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct. Yeah, it's only being piloted with 2 organizations right now. We do a lot of work with the team there. So they are in the process of trying to figure out how do we capture all of that data and bring it in because it's extremely valuable. So instead of just the medical research reports that are out there, how do we get that information?
How do we get to the patient? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
A couple of different slides identified 2 sort of dynamics. One is that with the amount of personalization and customization that is possible now, we can create an experience for a patient or a healthcare inquirer that really targets them much more closely. The other side, or the other dynamic, is that the Watson and similar technologies in terms of providing provider access to big data allow more time for them to interact directly with patients.
Correct.
As a provider of solutions, sort of online solutions for both these groups, primarily the providers, where do you see the line and the balance between we can do so much more interaction online now, but the need for
Levitation.
to patients of personal contact?
Sorry, I got a little distracted.
Siri's chiming in.
I'll go behind the gondola, sorry.
Off to the gondola.
Patients can get a much more robust online experience than before, but there's also a desire and a perceived need for a lot more personal contact with doctors, nurses, providers. where do you, as a provider of those more interactive and online experiences, where do you see the balance, and what are you recommending for clients in terms of drawing that line?
It's a great question. So, from our perspective, it's we've got to attract people. So as we move to a consumer market, we need to make sure that we're attracting people to come in and to show that we understand them. I think we talk a lot at Digital Influence Group about being a generous brand for a lot of our clients. But for a healthcare company, you need to kind of be an empathetic brand. So using the data that we have, it's a very tricky thing to do because we don't want to scare you and we don't want to say, hey, we know everything about you. So there's a line of data about making you feel comfortable and, again, increasing that trust. There's a level of data that is available to us, through social media and through social technology that allows us to build trust. Then there's that level of data that is going to be useful in terms of how do we solve or get a speed to diagnosis and improve the way that people are, improve the time to being cured. That level of data is something that we don't want to expose all of that. We've got to be very smart, and I think that's a combination and a collaboration between the provider, the health insurance company, and a variety of other folks that are all involved in this system. And that's what we do at Harvard Pilgrim, and you'll hear some great presentations later about how to get started and who are the people that need to be connected. But that core group of people, we're going to see a massive shift that they are going to have to come together and stop squabbling over price and start trying to figure out, we've all got this same data, how do we share this data to improve the entire system? So that data, and then what data is available and should be made available to people. I'm personally not a fan of WebMD. I always ask this question, and it might be a good time really quick, because I know we've got to run out of time. How many people are suffering from an illness right now? Raise your hand. Everybody in this room should have raised their hand. Because, well, it's true. Well, I'll tell you right now, my foot hurts. My foot hurts. That's an illness, everyone is suffering from something. So when we talk about healthcare and we talk about wellness, every one of us has something that we are trying to deal with. And we are all trying to be as well as we possibly can be. And the challenge is that with too much data, you're right, you're going to scare somebody. But if we know enough about you and we figure out how to capture that information, we can give you the information that's not going to scare you. And not make you, my foot hurts right now. I am not going to call the doctor, or look on WebMD and find out that I need to have an amputation. But that's what WebMD tells me, and unfortunately, that's what consumers are relying on. This is where we're going into a place where we can improve that type of information that's being shared and dramatically make people feel a little bit better about their health, and remove some of the hopelessness that they may feel. Anything else before we pass?
Thanks, Kevin.
Great. Thanks, sir.
Interesting, you were talking about like everyone having an illness and so forth. I'm just hoping that we don't continually move into the pharmaceutical age where restless leg syndrome is something that needs to be treated when you're just kind of like
right, exactly, exactly,
creating this anxiety.
But that's exactly the point. Is there's a lack of information and there's a lack of data. If my foot hurts and I go to WebMD, it's not going to tell me restless leg syndrome. It's going to tell me, I may have, some sort of vascular disease. So then I go and I see my primary care physician, or I go to the emergency room, and that's why we have all this backup. That's why we have these increasing costs. We have to find a way to better help people understand where they are and when they need to go find that care.
Yeah. It's interesting, you were talking about speed and rapid diagnosis, but I think the important thing is to be focusing on speed of recovery, wellness, and not faster and more. The other interesting thing you were talking about was the kind of dynamic change that's happening in the whole medical field. That's kind of almost similar to most native cultures, where when you're ill and you have an issue, you surround yourself by your community, you surround yourself by your family. That's happening a little bit more in social because of these sharing these stories and bringing it together. Whereas our traditional, Western medicine is as soon as you have an illness, I'm sorry, you're pushed out, and these people are isolated and having to deal with these things alone.
Right, and that's the one point I missed though is, there's also the caregiver. The caregiver, the amount of information that the caregiver is sharing, and what's the caregiver's role here? The caregiver tends to be the one who's doing the most research So, that's also something to keep in mind is the amount of data and information they have, and how do we communicate with the caregiver who is most likely advising the patient on what's the best care that's right for them.
So, great, Thanksgiving. And Ms. Carissa. Once again, I'd like to thank Carissa O'Brien for actually, taking, Lord knows what type of red eye, Jedi, if you did get lift, and coming up here this morning. Carissa is the social and media community manager and content director over at Aetna. 15 years communications veteran, and she's worked with just about and a personal advocate of what's the transition that's happening within social and healthcare. So I will leave it to your wonderful hands.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I apologize, I was a little bit late getting here. I did just get in at 2 a.m. So hopefully words will be coherent. But someone just like, Matt, you'll come up here and shake me if I don't make sense. Okay. And all right, so case in point, highly regulated industry. You saw me over there like mad trying to like fiddle with my computer. I can't take a file off of my computer with a USB drive. Compliance doesn't allow it. We have to protect patient health information that might be on that system. So right there, some of the challenges of technology.
But we overcame them.
And I can already see the slide is kind of
Doing its thing.
goofed up, so hopefully in my efforts to move it over, it didn't get all messed up. Okay, so I think Kevin gave us some really great information about what we know about social and health space and folks' use of social media and social networks for really connecting with their peers and looking for health information. And we know that there's a concern about misinformation that's out there, or whether folks may jump to conclusions about health conditions based on what they may find. But we do know that there is a real social influence when it comes to healthcare and consumers' use of social media. And in the social media space, we talk a lot about influence and the relative measures for that. And I think there's a lot of debate about what may or may not be an effective measure of influence. But I think one thing we can all generally agree on is that impact that our own networks of our peers, our family, our friends, our physician that we've trusted for years, the nurse that has cared for us, what that really has, that impact that it has on our own behavior and our own personal behavior. And so when we look at real data, I mean, we know that anecdotally, we know that for ourselves and our own personal lives, but when we look at data, and this is something that I pulled from the most recent Edelman Health Barometer, which I think is a really nice study of some of the key elements. We know that folks' engagement in social networks has a real impact on behavior change when it comes to healthy behavior. And we look at key points here on the spectrum, and we see that the ones that have the most impact are the ones that have a real social component to them. So for that reason alone, it makes it a real compelling medium for us, any of us in the healthcare space that are really trying to drive change for healthy behavior. It makes it a really compelling space for us to focus on. So, what the heck is taking so long? Well, it's healthcare, and we're highly regulated, and so unfortunately we find that we are lagging behind a lot of the other industries. And we've got some catching up to do, but we've made great strides. And really, I think a lot of what has driven those positive strides have been the consumers themselves and the patients that have honestly demanded it. And so, industry has realized that it's just not something that we can afford to lag behind in, and so we're making efforts. Those of us on the industry side of things that have to start to drive that change, we've got some real challenges on our hands. And, I didn't know there was a bill either. Oh, yeah, wow, okay.
It's quite the change, officer.
Yeah, that did not look like that. Okay. So, and you'll forgive me, I mean, this did actually look kind of goofy even when it started, because a real old boy EMS chief put this slide together, and I stole it from him from a workshop that we gave earlier this week. I mentioned I was in Colorado. I was giving a 4-hour workshop on social media for emergency medicine and for EMS leaders. And I asked him to join me. He's a chief from a really highly regarded, well-operating EMS system in Wake County, North Carolina. He's been doing this for decades. And I wanted him to come in and speak from a leadership perspective. What does it take to really drive change and get folks to adopt social media and EMS? And I think it stands for, all of healthcare. And he said, and this is, a picture of what would probably be a safety officer on scene of a, disaster response or a mass casualty. And he said, instead of that, we're wearing the change officer jacket. We have to serve that role at every turn. And that's really true of all of us that are driving this change for social in healthcare. Well, that's not going to do it all.
That's going to do.
Again, did I mention the 2 a.m. piece? Yeah, okay.
Lots of notes.
Okay.
There we go.
So, I work for a 160-year-old insurance company. Risk averse would maybe be a good adjective for the history of that company. And yet, they have invested a great deal in evolving themselves into a social organization and hiring folks to come in and drive that change. So it's not going to happen overnight though, and it takes folks like me to help to educate internally and get folks to understand what those key elements are to getting us there. And so I like to show this part, particularly the quote in the middle from Jack Holt at the DoD. I think we actually in healthcare can learn a lot from our government companions. Jack had this quote, it's, social media are not new tools we need to learn how to use, it's a new environment in which we need to learn how to live. And that's really part of the mantra at Aetna internally, as far as evolving ourselves into a social organization. We need to change the rules of how we operate from the inside out. And so these are, some of the key elements. Any of us that are active in social won't be surprised to see that. But you'll notice that, one piece that we maybe don't focus on as much in, that's not going in, the tactical execution is that culture piece. And that is so very important. That cultural piece has to be in place in order for us to layer all the other parts on top. So I like to use the sandbox analogy sometimes, and that's not to suggest that healthcare is a game by any stretch, but we're sort of finding ourselves in a new sandbox, and we have to build it. We have to define what the parameters are, and we have to give folks the right tools to play in that sandbox and show them how to do it. And that's what we're doing. So the first part, how do you get folks like legal and compliance and regulatory comfortable in this new environment is policy. And that's how we make sure that we can be in a safe place with respect to protecting our patients' health information and knowing that we're creating a safe environment for consumers to engage with us in social media. So we define that sandbox, we set really clear rules. And there's process. We've got the guardrails in place, so now we have to give direction, and we have to be really clear about what those multiple layers are, and give the community managers that are going to be on the streets and interacting with our various communities of interest, give them real guidance on what that looks like and how it can be effective. And then this part is so critically important: education, training. We have to give folks the tools to use in that sandbox. And if they don't have the proper education and the training, yes, the cultural understanding, but the real tools for understanding how to represent your brand or how to truly understand and speak with empathy when a patient is dealing with something that is obviously impacting their lives so profoundly. And it might be something so simple as frustration with a claim, or it might be the fact that they're in stage 4 cancer and they are counting on you to be a partner to get them through that. And so it takes us to be able to really understand what empathy looks like and to be able to apply it every day. And that comes from training. It doesn't come naturally to everyone. So we have to prepare them. So this is just to look at what our enterprise social toolkit would look like. And this is boiling it down to its most simple form. But you put those three pieces together. Policy is not just in a regulated industry. It's not just a simple one-page policy. It's a standard that we create. It's that piece that everyone's familiar with, creating a social media policy that is clear about the rules of the road. But then it's guidelines. So we can't just throw out a policy and expect, who reads the social media policy on the website? Seriously. It's like, who reads the terms before they download something? Come on now. None of us. Like, you may glance, you may skim. So we have to make it, just like everything else in social, we have to make it human. So we have to create guidelines that folks can understand and truly follow. And then we have to do it from both sides. Yes, we set a policy for what's acceptable and what the rules are, but we set expectations not only for the expectations we have of ourselves and the expectations we have of the community we engage with. So we create that in a friendly, non-legalese manner to make it clear, this is the sandbox we're operating in. This is the standard we're going to hold ourselves to. This is what we expect of you, community. Are we on the same page? Then let's move forward together. Process is robust. It includes playbooks. Where I'm a big fan of Belichick's, way of coaching his team. I got a playbook too. And I expect every person that's on my team to know that playbook inside and out and be able to use it to really govern how we engage in social media. So we have an actual playbook that carries through all of our process in social media. That includes detailed workflow maps. We've got issues in social media, we need to be able to know how those escalate. We can't wait for the crisis to happen. I'm an EMS girl at heart too. Crisis is not when you hand out the business cards and figure out the process. You have got to know beforehand what that workflow is and how you escalate it, how you get through that process before it happens. So we've got detailed workflow maps. We've got resource libraries for everyone that's involved in social media to be able to know where to turn to understand exactly how we're doing this thing. And then the education. We have training for our community managers. We're in the process of developing 6 different training paths for every level of employee at our organization. From the hourly worker to our CEO and our executive team, everyone's going to go through mandatory training. They're going to be certified in social media. They're going to have training that's applicable to the role that they're going to have in social. If they're just going to be casual, using it personally, that's one path. If they're going to, advocate and just sort of, cheer on some of the things that we do at our company on their networks, that's another path. If they're going to serve as an authorized representative of the brand, that's another path. But it's training that is related to what they're going to do in social media so that they feel, again, like they're really comfortable with the rules of the road. Uh-oh. Oh, that's not good at all. I'm sorry that's not up there, but that's okay. So there was supposed to be something there. This is a picture of what does it look like? What does it mean for Aetna to become social? And we look at it in 3 different buckets.
As you can see, there are clearly 3 different buckets.
All right, so the first one is social business. When we mean we're going to become social, we mean from the inside out. So we're using social tools and how we operate as a business and how we collaborate as a team. And so, we've got an internal social network that is changing again. It's changing how our folks start to operate, start to work, start to, live their work life and how they collaborate. So that's sort of starting from the inside out. Social brand is, of course, what folks typically consider when they think of social media. It's our branded presence in social networks where we can really interact directly with the communities that we serve. And then social health is the part that that really has me fired up, because it's the piece that I really thought we needed to better define and understand and help be a driver for. So I think it's still something that a lot of us are defining, I think, in the industry, and then we're still defining it as a brand, what it means to us. But that's really about, engaging in online health communities in the conversations around the pursuit of health and wellness. And what does that mean? And what is the insurer's role in those conversations? And how can we be a resource to really serve the community and just ensure that we're doing what is right for the consumers and for the patients and for our members? So you saw on the bottom, those are the foundational components that enable us to sort of make that vision come true. And it's those key pieces I told you in the enterprise toolkit: the policy, the process, the training. Of course, social listening is the part that kind of feeds and enables all of this to begin with, understanding what those conversations are, what our share of voice is, and what the need is. What are consumers saying they need from us, so we understand how to serve them better. And the structure of that takes its form in a center of excellence. So, where we face hurdles, or we would have faced hurdles in moving strategy forward, we created a structure by bringing the right stakeholders to the table early, bringing legal and compliance and regulatory, but then also the other functions like HR, IT, I'm forgetting others, communications, and making sure that we have a cross-functional center of excellence that helps to create that strategy and then drives this stuff forward so that we don't get those stumbling blocks. We create that sort of culture of yes, so that folks are prepared and feel as though we've got the right path forward, and they don't have to come at it from, we can't do this, compliance is an issue here, regulatory is a problem there. Am I running out of time? This is just, kind of a view of, folks. I just joined Aetna 9 months ago. So there are a number of things over the last couple of years that I think the business tested and put out there to really better understand what folks needed from us and what might be successful. There are some things that are living and thriving today, stuff like in the social health realm, like Mind Bloom, our life game, really bringing the gamification layer to healthcare. With Shape Up the Nation, we have Aetna Ever Active, really getting people moving and active and joining in a social community to keep active and again, keep those moving behaviors going. Bless you. And of course, we have our active Twitter.
Is Mind Bloom an Aetna product? Or is it
So,
sort of a buy?
They're a partner. Mind Bloom is a company out of Seattle, but we have a partnership with them, and we've rolled that out as something that we have to, not only to our members, but to the broader community as well.
Cool.
Yeah. It's interesting that Kevin brought up my triage earlier. I don't know if you knew that was ours or not.
I did.
Okay. So I brought up my triage because, this is, I think, a good example of how if you hear our CEO, Mark Bernalini, talk about where Aetna is heading, you don't ever hear him mention or talk about us as a health insurer. You hear him talk about us as being a health technology company, a health IT company, that we're a consumer health company. We're about bringing consumer solutions and bringing technology to bear to serve the consumer. And so I think iTriage is a good example of how we're doing that. iTriage was actually developed by two ER docs, and we purchased it about a year and a half ago, I think. And it's serving as one of the key pieces of our consumer platform to really connect patients and providers. And it's not on the Aetna network, so it is completely network agnostic. It's really about serving the broader good and really making sure that we can forge those connections for folks. And it will remain that way. It's not going to turn into an Aetna-only product or something that we pull into our systems. We believe strongly that it's a consumer app, and it's one of the top 5 health apps today. It's going to stay that way because of maintaining true to that mission. So I think one thing that if I've been hazy and haven't contributed to anything else today, I hope one thing that I've managed to accomplish is helping to get Alicia involved today. I suggested that to Bob because I think, I could sit up here and talk about, our brand efforts, but the heart of everything that we do is the consumer and the e-patient. And whether it's, a consumer trying to be proactive about health and wellness, or a patient that is consuming technology and social media to help them work through a condition, or to connect with a community that has the same or similar experiences as they do, or can simply serve as that support network. That is ultimately what we're in all of this for. And yes, we're, of course, we need to serve our members, and we have our customer service function through Twitter, and we have brand goals and all that. But in the end, we're trying to better serve our community, and our community goes far broader than our 18 million members. It's the folks that really are turning to social to improve their health, and we hope that we're playing some role in that.
Thank you so much. And once again, I think, an hour and a half sleep, so that's fantastic.
Exactly an hour and a half sleep.
So, an interesting thing you're talking about, you're keeping the patient at the center of everything, and with the onslaught of information, the availability of information, we'll talk about this a little bit later on, is like, how do you actually weed through that and actually make more sense of it, and having kind of the social community to kind of help say, this makes sense, that doesn't make sense, and to kind of provide real value to you, as opposed to just more information that gets you lost, or more WebMD. Yes?
I have a question. It's fascinating to me, I triage and your final statement. It is, and I installed it, and I am expert at this, and I noticed the fact that it was Aetna independent.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you is, the average person, the average patient, would not necessarily know that unless you promote it as such. Let me go back, 10 years, and Google trying to promote itself as, what's the term, not evil. Trying to make that effort, and maybe they've moved on, or the world has moved on. Are you going to take it to the level of actually promoting patient-centeredness or independence as a way of reaching out? Or is it going to be subtle and left for each of us to discover or judge?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, I think within the healthcare industry, I think we've started doing that. We've made it clear to the folks that operate in our space that it's an agnostic tool, and that's by design, and we have a commitment to keeping it that way. I think from the consumer perspective, I don't know that we've been as focused on doing that, just because we see it as a tool that's out there. They're going to interface with it, and find the information that they need. They'll see that there's no real network layered in there to serve as a barrier to get at what they need. But it's an interesting point whether we need to be, sort of more proactive about making folks realize that that it's not gated in any way. But I think the simplest form of that is that we have not layered Aetna branding on it. If you download it from the App Store, you don't see Aetna. I don't even think Aetna is mentioned anywhere on the entire page. You don't have to interface through Aetna anywhere to get to it. So there's no indication that it would be associated with any one insurance plan. And that's, I think, the only way we're sort of addressing it for now. Does that answer your question?
Well, you're saying you're not addressing it.
Yeah, we're basically not adding that. We're not approaching the consumer with it from an insurer.
No, I'm just saying the other direction. Why? At what point would you consider approaching the consumer from the fact that this is a person-centered
Right.
perspective rather than our particular institutional perspective. That would be an earth-shaking change for almost anybody in this industry to do.
Yeah, and I think, maybe we need to be a little bit clearer with that and how we introduce it, through, with the sort of the first points of entry for consumers, yeah. No, that's a good point.
That's a great question. I would like to kind of move forward a little bit. Just one more quick question for Carissa. Yes?
Given Aetna as an insurance company and we just had this huge Supreme Court decision, I was curious. I was curious if social has been a tool for you in terms of answering questions from the community about what that might mean for Aetna customers, between now and 2013.
Yes, it has, and I think we need to do more there. And I think the only reason we haven't done as much as we could yet is because people are still figuring it out, and that includes us. We know what our strategy is, and the decision actually didn't really impact that strategy. It didn't change. So, it's not that we're figuring out our piece, but we're still trying to, distill kind of those key pieces for the consumer and make sure that we can serve as that resource. But yes, social was a key part. We were literally, watching the SCOTUS live blog tick by second, and
Oh, we weren't watching CNN or Fox?
oh, well, we had that on too, but obviously we couldn't count on that.
Unfortunately, John Stewart didn't come on until 11 p.m., so.
Yeah, so, and we had an immediate statement out on social, after the decision, and we answered a couple of questions. It will definitely continue, I think, to play a major part as that continues through 2014 and beyond.
Great. Thank you once again, Carissa. Lora. Come on up. Laura's the principal of Scratch Marketing and Media. She's also one of the board members over the MIT Enterprise Forum and been living in the healthcare space with his clients for quite some time. So thank you very much, Ms. Lora.
Hi everyone. Do I just press the button?
You just press the button.
Allegedly, right? Which button do I press?
The one that works.
Don't press the red button. Would it glow?
We going back?
Just a little bit. Yeah, so I just wanted to introduce myself quickly because I do live in the social space and I started Scratch about 4 years ago. We didn't start in healthcare specifically. It was about a year after that, and I'm super passionate about healthcare for a whole host of reasons. I think we're definitely facing a huge revolution. Not sure that it has hit us yet, but it's definitely getting there. It's getting there from every stakeholder perspective, and I think we have this unique opportunity at Scratch to work with healthcare companies, with big data analytics companies, and we can see what the potential is. And what we do is we work with consumer brands in certain cases, just sort of on the border of being a technology company and consumer. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but I just wanted to give you a bit of background where you can find me. And I think as my firm evolved, initially we talked about us as a social marketing firm, and now I think we're talking about ourselves as a connected marketing firm because it's all about making the connection between or among the stakeholders that we work with. So this is me, these are my kids, this is everywhere you can find me, but my word is connector, so hopefully I can make some connections for you today. Well, not on the right path. Did I do this?
No, you're good.
Okay.
The button to the right. There you go.
So this is kind of how we think about the space, and I have been bothered by the word patient because I don't know that we ever talk about ourselves as patients when we talk about other people. So we think about us as consumers, as people. And what we try to understand when we look at healthcare or any other industry is understanding who we're talking to, what their needs are. I don't know that I agree with Kevin that I feel like I'm ill all the time, and I do believe that we have this sense of delayed urgency and delayed responsibility that happens to all of us, and I think that's probably one of the factors of why healthcare is not getting enough traction is because we don't feel the urgency to do something today, and you can see this in consumer behavior. So then we identify the consumption patterns, be that for B2B buyers or for technology or for consumers, and then we do the magic that happens afterwards. So this is the perspective we bring we work with different technology companies like Orion, which is an HIE, Navinet, which was acquired by Lomeris, and actually work with Aetna pretty closely on more on the healthcare information technology side, CAQH, which is hoping to bring more standards to the industry. GNS Healthcare and Relay are big data analytics companies. One of them is trying to unravel causation for disease. This is GNS. And what Relay is doing is they're helping life science companies understand the value of assets from a trending perspective. So there's some amazing stuff that's happening in healthcare that is bound to change everybody, and it's happening, but I don't know that it's happening at the speed that we all want to see it. So I figured that I'll just share some data just in terms of, quick adoption of social across different industries. As Carissa mentioned, healthcare is not necessarily at the top of the funnel. There are other industries that are a lot more advanced in terms of using social technologies to connect, to provide meaningful relationships to people to engage. And it's a study that McKinsey did late 2011, so the data is not up to date, but still I don't know that that sort of dynamic changed. And as Kevin talked about this, I think hospitals, academic medical centers, everyone is jumping and trying to figure out what does that mean. Is it another channel, or is it fundamentally changing relationships and what we do and how we communicate with each other, how we get something done, how we ensure medication adherence. So I guess what I wanted to talk about.
Excuse me, could you speak up a little bit to the acoustics? We can barely hear you in the back row.
Okay, yeah, I'll try.
Thanks.
So what I wanted to talk to you guys about is my personal belief is that social is not another channel. It actually has fundamentally changed the way we do things across multiple different industries in our life and at work. And I think the e-patient movement is a very interesting and pointing factor that it's absolutely changing. It's going to change everybody. And everybody would need to adapt, especially on the sort of the provider side, be that technology companies or providers. So before I keep going, I wanted to ask Keith to stand up and not face the audience because he is going to share, one of those really compelling stories.
So, some of you are familiar with Regina Holiday. She's a patient advocate in DC who paints jackets and walls and paintings and all kinds of other things. And she also paints a lot with words. Her particular story about her husband who died of kidney cancer and her interactions with the healthcare system, and that's how she got into healthcare advocacy. This particular jacket talks about myself and my colleagues in the health IT space who were up until 3 in the morning writing standards that are used, for example, in meaningful use and everything else. And so it's just a representation of why we're up and why we do what we do in this particular space to basically try to fix the problem.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So continuing on the e-patient track of things, Regina Holiday would be one of those empowered patients. Unfortunately, her story is not a happy one, and that's what forced her to be a patient advocate and to be a consumer advocate. This is a happy story. E-patient Dave is a happy story. He also had kidney cancer, and he connected with people who had a similar condition who pointed him to the right cure, and e-patient Dave is here. He's alive. Usually, I think for his condition, the diagnosis was that he had 24 weeks to live or something to that effect. And years later, he saw his daughter getting married. So definitely follow him if you